Yeah, it's ready. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all going.
Right. So we're here at the Go Diving Show, and we've listened to a few speakers, and Patrick Widmannm is with us, and he spoke earlier this morning.
Yes.
Yep. So for people watching this, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Patrick. I'm originally from Austria. I have left Austria when I was 19 years old, moved to Egypt for 5 years, and now since 16 years I live in Mexico. And in Mexico I own ProTec diving centers. So I'm one of the owners of ProTec diving centers, and I teach technical and cave diving and rebreather diving a lot in the last couple of years because I'm the training director of KISS rebreathers, and we've done a lot of work on the rebreather. And in my spare time I travel around the world and I explore caves and teach people.
Yeah.
They're popular rebreather because we spoke to quite a few people who dive on rebreathers. In fact, one of our friends, and also Christina as well.
Yeah, on KISS.
Yes, the Sidewinder, because we have been in rebreathers in ProTec since quite some time, since about 2001, and we've been definitely one of the most active places to learn rebreather cave diving, right? Because we're in Mexico, we're in like the Himalayas of caves, so to speak. So we taught a lot of rebreather cave diving, but not so much like the entry levels, right? Like Mod 1 or Mod 2, we didn't do that much. We also didn't sell a lot of rebreathers, right? Because we're in Mexico, usually people will buy their rebreather in the States or buy their rebreather in Europe and then just travel with it. And then since the Sidewinder, with the Sidewinder we sold over 80 rebreathers in 2.5 years, and I've been basically teaching non-stop Sidewinder Mod 1 classes and crossovers for the past good 4 years now.
Yeah.
One of our sponsors, they service and look after
all sorts of rebreathers.
And I think they actually look after
KISS.
Yeah.
KISS
Very possible.
as well.
Yeah.
It has definitely kept us busy, and the funny part is, because usually rebreathers would be like a technical diving equipment, right? So it's usually for people that want to go deeper or longer, and they have to invest more money, and it's heavy, and it's more like type of diving. But the Sidewinder is quite the opposite, right? You can do extreme hardcore exploration with it. We have explored caves sub 100 meters for over hour duration on the bottom, several hours of decompression. We have dragged it through dry caves. We have rappelled with it. We have done extreme types of diving with it. At the same time, maybe 85 to 90% of my clients in Europe are recreational divers that dive in lakes and quarries, maximum to like 20 meters, 30 meters. So it's really quite interesting, the versatility of the rebreather in regards to the people that are interested in using it.
So it's not all deep stuff.
No.
Deep dives.
No, first of all, the Sidewinder is extremely lightweight, right? It weighs 7 kilos. So for traveling,
it's not heavy.
No, not at all. It's one of the only rebreathers where you can like jump up and down with it. It doesn't take any physical strength to put it together to take it apart, which most rebreathers to a certain degree need that sometimes, right?
That's interesting, yeah.
And the best part about it is it's unbelievably easy to dive. When most rebreathers think, rebreather diving is not that difficult because they're rather deep. We in Mexico, we dive mostly very shallow. So everybody or most people are familiar with the term minimum loop, meaning that when I inhale, my counter lung is supposed to be empty, right? And the gas is in my lung, and when I exhale, it's in the counter lung and vice versa. But what they don't think about is also, in the moment I inhale a minimum loop, my rebreather doesn't have a vacuum in it, right? There's still gas in the canisters and the corrugated hose and in every place except the counter lung. So the larger that volume is, the more difficult it is to use it in shallow water.
Right.
Most rebreathers by default are rather large, right? So even when I dive minimum loop and I inhale, there's still maybe like 10 or 12 or 14 liters of gas left in the rebreather. So now if I ascend by like 1 meter or 2 meters in shallow water, all hell breaks loose, which makes diving rebreathers really very challenging, specifically in shallow water. So, and it also sort of like a little bit takes the fun out of diving, right? Because you're like kind of like challenged and busy all the time, which is why very few, if none of us, have ever used before like big sized rebreathers for fun cave diving on the weekend, so to speak. We would usually just go open circuit. And that is completely flipped with the Sidewinder. And like the locals that live in Mexico, maybe 5% were rebreather certified, and now it's more like 60%. And then when most people just go Sidewinder diving as their #1 tool. It's not like, oh, I'm going to use side mount, but then for a specific type of diving, I'm going to bring. No, for any type of diving, we just go with the side runner.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's good for people to see that there is a transition from open circuit to.
Yes,
yeah,
it's super.
simple.
It's lightweight. It's super easy, and it's also price-wise not that expensive. I think in the UK it's going to be about 7,000 euros ish. I don't know what that is, less than sterling. So yeah, this is why, because now as a training director, I'm trying to promote to have more instructors around the world, and then everybody always tells me, it's like, yeah, but you know, our market is very small, and here it's not going to sell. And I'm like, I would have said the same thing about Mexico 4 years ago, and I was completely and utterly wrong, right? So it's definitely something, and because of that, I spent the last 2 years also traveling quite intensively. I went to Asia, Israel. I went to a lot of places just teaching people how to on the side runner. It's almost become my full-time profession.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I'm intrigued, if you're from Austria, how did you get into your scuba journey? Because it's a landlocked country.
Yes, but we have a lot of lakes, right? I started diving when I was 12 in a local search and rescue team. I'm from a 700 people village. So when you're in a village, everybody does something. You're either with the music, or you're with the firefighters, or with something like that. And my dad just was with Red Cross, voluntary Red Cross, voluntary mountain rescue team, and voluntary water rescue team. And I joined him in the water rescue team. And yeah, diving has been pretty much my #1 passion besides alpinism. And then when I was 19 years old, I broke my back in a climbing accident. And in Austria, you usually have to join military service after high school. The military said, we can't take you for 1 year because of your injuries. I was like, what am I going to do for 1 year? I don't want to go to university by myself without my mates. I don't want to spend time at home. And so, you know, they were like, hey, why don't you go somewhere as a dive guide? So I moved to Croatia. Croatia was October, it got really cold really fast, and then no more tourism, so then I moved to Egypt. And yeah, then I did 5 years there, and then in 2005, a German tourist gave me a book that was called Beyond the Deep. It's Barbara am Ende and Bill Stone exploring Huatla, the deep caves of Mexico, 1,900 meters down. Lots of British people were parts of the exploration also. And I remember opening the book in the middle where the pictures are, and I see them sleeping in a bivouac with the rebreathers underneath it, and I'm like, hang on, I can climb and dive in the same sport? I need to do that. So in 2005, I sent emails to Martin Farr, actually. Martin Farr, British cave diving legend, of course, and a bunch of other people, and the person that sent me the best answer back was a guy named Matt from ProTec, the shop that I own now, but from ProTec in Mexico, and said, yeah, so I went to Mexico for 2 months and had a whole bunch of cash with me from Egypt, and I said, look, this is the money I have, teach me everything there is to know about cave diving, and this is how I started.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we're going to invite you back onto the podcast for a longer chat about your journey. So, but that's been a great intro to hear all about.
Would be my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
That was excellent.